Right, so as I've said there, we've looked at the peg and everything and the conditions that we face with today, and now we're going to look into the ground bait mix. As I've said, the river's running low and clear, and there's plenty of roach and things like that in here, and I'm looking for a heavy mix because of the depth. As I say, just building on things that we've learnt from fishing the ooze before. So to that end, this is the ground bait mix that I'm going for today. The first and most important thing is Sensor's 3000 River. I've got a lot of faith in these Sensor's 3000 ground baits. You'll see whenever I'm using ground bait, usually it's a bag of lake or something like that I use. The key thing is River's a very heavy mix, nice and bready, it's quite rich, but the key thing is that weight, and it needs to be a heavy mix to get down to the bottom. So that's the first thing into the bucket. You'll see today I'm going to mix up quite a quantity of ground bait as well. Again, there's a lot of fish in the ooze, and if they do turn up, I don't want to be short of bait. So I'm putting a full bag of that in there. I'll pop that out of the way. The next ingredient is Dynamite Silver X Roach. This is a really nice mix for silverfish. It's very light, plenty of hemp content, but it's again geared towards roach as the name suggests. The key thing is with this, small particles, not a lot of feed. Again, because of the nature of the river and because of the time of year especially, I'm not looking to put in a really rich ground bait. So something like this, rather than more of a bread-based mix, is the way to go. Plenty of attractants in it, so again, a good mix, and it should also make the mix quite heavy as well. You can see again, another nice ground bait. It's darker than the Black River, as you can see, and again, clear conditions, black ground bait's the way to go. So again, a full bag in there. The other thing as well about the ooze is it holds a massive head of pike and predators, so a black mix is absolutely essential when you're fishing this time of year. Anything lighter, the roach are going to be visible over it and they're going to spook. So you might catch a few fish, but very quickly they'll move on as predators start to spot them. So that's why a black mix is essential. And then the final component is Dynamite's Frenzied Hemp Seed. Again, another jet black mix. Obviously, as the name suggests, plenty of hemp seed in there. Great attractant for roach, and it's a great holding bait. Obviously, on big sections of river like this, you need to draw fish. So your ground bait needs to be geared towards that, so you want sort of mixers that will have a lot of attractants in it, and that's why we've gone for this component. The Silver X Roach is very similar, but this again just boosts that element of the mix. Plenty of hemp seed, so we should be able to draw fish up the peg, which also means that I don't actually have to feed as much hemp and castor if it comes to that. If the fishing's hard, I can actually just put in neat ground bait, which is also a great way to boost the peg. If you're struggling for bites, but you think you need to attract fish, it gives me the option to just put in neat ground bait, and I know that it's got plenty of attractant in it. So again, a full bag in there. So we're mixing up a good, probably 4 or 5 kilos of ground bait today. Give that a good mix around. Crucial thing when you are mixing your ground baits is you mix the dry contents before you wet them. And as you can see, that mix is really nice and dark. And as we add the water to it, you'll see it'll darken off even more. The riverbed here is sort of like a silty type riverbed, quite pale. And that's why I've gone for a dark mix as well. If I went for one that had matched the water, what you do realise is after a while the ground bait will actually get lighter than the riverbed. So you always want to go something a bit darker. And obviously this time of year, as I've said, as dark as possible is the way to go. So obviously with a mix like this, it might take a while to wet up properly. You just have to be very careful with it. Just add water bit by bit, don't go too mad with it. And again, in the middle of winter when I'm looking to make an even more inert mix, I'd probably mix this the night before and then bring it to the bank and just re-wet it. So as I say, it might take a while for me to get this wetted up properly. Again, if you're mixing quantities like this, you'll see a lot of anglers will use a drill and a whisk and things like that. I prefer to just do it by hand because then I can make sure the consistency is absolutely correct. We'll get a bit more water in there. One other thing that I might consider, say if it was getting further towards winter and I came to this peg, is I'd do a very similar mix, probably identical really, but I'd actually dilute the mix with something like soil. Ideally molehill soil's the perfect ingredient for that because that has no food content. So obviously in the middle of winter when bites are at an absolute premium, then I'd be expecting to use soil in the mix as well, just to make sure that I'm optimising the amount of bites and not filling the fish up too quick, because obviously you do need to introduce a quantity of bait here to make sure that it all gets down and to get some attractants into the water. But you do, as I say, at this time you really have to watch the feed content. As you can see though, that's slowly coming together now. You can see nice dark mix, so I'll keep getting this wetted up, make sure it's absolutely perfect.